Welcome to the midnight hour. The rhythmic tap-tap-tap of rain against the window was the only sound accompanying Mark's late-night work session. He squinted at his computer screen, the glow casting long shadows across his home office. A flash of movement outside caught his eye. He peered through the window, expecting the neighborhood cat chasing a rogue leaf. But instead, a man stood on the sidewalk, shrouded in the darkness. Unusual for this late hour, Mark thought, dismissing it as a late-night jogger. Yet, a prickle of unease crawled up his spine. He hadn't seen anyone walk by their house all night. The unease blossomed into full-blown terror when he glanced back at the screen. There, reflected in the blackness of his monitor, stood the same man, silhouetted against the streetlight, now directly outside his window. Mark shot up from his chair, heart hammering against his ribs. He sprinted to the window, flinging it open with a bang. The street was empty. The rain lashed through the open window, soaking his face and sending a shiver down his spine. He slammed the window shut, locking it with a click that echoed in the sudden silence. But the image of the man, his face obscured by the darkness, lingered in his mind. Work forgotten, Mark paced, fear tightening its grip. A sudden rapping on the door shattered the silence. He jumped, his breath catching in his throat. Who could be here at this ungodly hour? Cautiously, he approached the door, peering through the peephole. The hallway was dark and empty. The knocking came again, more insistent, followed by a deep, booming voice that sent shivers down Mark's spine.
I know you're in there, open up.
Paralyzed with fear, Mark leaned against the door, his heart hammering a frantic rhythm. The banging intensified, punctuated by the chilling shout.
Don't ignore me, let me in.
His legs trembling, Mark unlocked the door with shaking hands. He flung it open, ready to confront whoever was out there. But the hallway was deserted. Rain dripped from the ceiling, and the only sound was his own ragged breathing. He slammed the door shut, collapsing against it, his head in his hands. Sleep was a distant prospect. Every creak of the house, every whisper of wind, sent a jolt of terror through him. He couldn't work, couldn't focus. Fear had him by the throat. Finally, exhausted and defeated, he crawled under his bed, seeking a sliver of comfort in the darkness. But it offered no solace. The knocking returned, echoing through the house, each blow louder than the last. With a final, bone-chilling crack, the door splintered open. Terrified, Mark squeezed his eyes shut, bracing for the worst. A cold wind swirled around him, carrying the scent of damp earth and forgotten memories. He dared to crack open an eye. A black, featureless figure stood motionless in the doorway. Panic choked a scream in his throat. Before he could even react, the figure vanished, leaving behind a chilling silence. Mark stayed huddled under the bed, the night stretching into an eternity of fear. Morning arrived, painting the room with a weak light, but offering no comfort. His ordeal wasn't a dream. The shattered door and the lingering scent were horrifying proof. The police investigation yielded nothing, leaving Mark convinced that whatever tormented him was beyond their reach. He couldn't work, the fear clinging to him like a shroud. Sleep became his enemy, a world where the faceless figure haunted his dreams. He was alone, haunted by a silent entity, a prisoner in his own home. The world outside continued to spin, but Mark was trapped in a nightmare, the incessant knocking a constant reminder of the darkness that awaited him. The warmth of her comforter was a cocoon against the chill of the night. Then, a blood-curdling scream shattered the silence. Sarah bolted upright in bed, heart pounding against her ribs. The scream, a woman's voice, called out her name with chilling urgency. Panic surged through her. She fumbled for the bedside lamp, but the switch yielded only darkness. Hitting it repeatedly, a strangled curse escaped her lips. The room stayed stubbornly dark. A cold draft snaked across her skin, sending goosebumps erupting all over. A memory surfaced, a conversation overheard in the hospital cafeteria. They were talking about a woman who lived alone and swore her house grew icy cold whenever unseen things were around. Cold sweat prickled Sarah's skin. She checked her watch, 3 a.m. The witching hour. The scream tore through the silence again, closer this time, laced with an otherworldly desperation. In the corner of her eye, a dark shape flickered across the periphery of the moonlight filtering through the window. Sarah snapped her head towards it, but there was nothing there.
"Who's there?"
She shrieked, her voice cracking with fear. Silence. Except for the frantic thudding of her own heartbeat. Fear propelled her out of bed. She stumbled through the darkened house, desperate to find the source of the scream, to find the source of the cold. Every light switch she touched remained stubbornly uncooperative. The only illumination came from the full moon, casting an eerie glow through the windows. Reaching the stairs, Sarah missed a step, tumbling down in a heap. Pain shot through her ankle, but adrenaline fueled her to get up. A high-pitched giggle, like a child's, echoed through the house. Sarah lived alone. Terror choked a sob in her throat.
"Please, come out,"
she pleaded, her voice trembling. But there was no reply, only the spectral giggle that danced through the shadows. As she turned a corner, moonlight flooded the hallway, revealing a horrifying sight. Glowering figures, translucent and ethereal, materialized before her. Their eyes were hollow pits, staring into her soul. Sarah's scream died in her throat as a primal fear took hold. Panic seized her, propelling her towards the front door. She flung it open and dashed out into the cool night air, anything to escape the chilling apparitions. But as she reached the sidewalk, a horrifying realization dawned: the door was locked. Turning back to the house, she saw the figures at the windows, watching her with their chilling, vacant stares. Then, to her utter disbelief, she saw her own bedroom window. And there, nestled under the covers, lay Sarah, sound asleep. How? Was it a dream? Had she imagined everything? Desperation fueled her. She slammed her fists against the window, but the glass wouldn't break. The ghostly figures materialized beside her, their cold presence sending a new wave of terror through her. They reached out with spectral hands, and a chilling whisper echoed in her mind.
"No one can hear the dead."
The next morning, Sarah woke with a gasp, bathed in the warm glow of sunlight. Was it all a nightmare? The events of the night replayed in her mind with horrifying clarity. Panic clawed at her throat. She stumbled out of bed, a limp in her step, the memory of the fall a painful reminder. Heading towards the living room, she noticed the light switch hanging crookedly on the wall. It must have come loose when she fell. Relief washed over her, a logical explanation. Yet, a nagging unease lingered. Suddenly, a flicker of movement out of the corner of her eye caught her attention. A child's giggle, almost inaudible this time, echoed in her ears. Sarah spun around, her heart pounding. But the room was empty. Just the morning sun streaming through the window, casting long shadows across the floor. The events of the night, the chilling whispers, the ghostly figures, were they a horrific nightmare fueled by exhaustion and a creepy overheard conversation? Or was there something more sinister at play? Sarah shivered, a coldness settling over her despite the warmth of the morning sun. The answer remained a chilling mystery, a haunting reminder of the night she saw herself sleeping, a prisoner in the land of the living while the dead walked the halls of her own home. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, like and comment.